It's time to decode sales. Hey friends, welcome to yet another exciting episode of Sales Decoded, number one sales podcast in India. I'm your host, Amit Sharma, and I'm going to take you through this hot topic of today, how selling is going to be in the future. Sales Decoded podcast, it runs with a single motto of delivering top sales skills, sales strategies, trends and technologies to sales leaders and sales professionals across the globe. And I'm back today to discuss how the sales is going to be in the future. And it's one of the interesting and hot topic today because we are right in the middle of a sales transformation. So on one side, we have a lot of startups coming up. Every day, each year, thousands of startups are being launched across the globe. That's making the sales landscape highly competitive. We have new technologies coming up each day that is making sales automation possible, and then, of course, introducing a lot more challenges along with it. And then the explosion of information. Well, how can we forget that? The information explosion is constantly changing the buying behavior of the customers, which is impacting the sales, and it is making sales harder and harder each day. So to discuss that, how it's all these things are impacting sales, today's sales in B2B and B2C arena, we have our guest today, Mr. Raul from beautiful city of Spain. That's Madrid, I guess. Raul.
Okay, and thank you for your invitation. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine, Raul. We are glad to have you with us. So, Raul's gonna throw more light on how the landscape of sales is changing and how it's gonna look like in future. The Raul, let me tell you about Raul. Raul has extensive experience in sales. Raul, he's a Spanish engineer, traveler, writer, and above all, the author of the bestseller book, Sell More, Sell Better.
Eternal sales techniques beyond internet. It's a title.
Absolutely, eternal sales techniques beyond internet. Well, that itself captures my imagination, Raul. I'm sure there is a lot hidden inside in it, and we're gonna explore all that today. So, Raul, as I was mentioning about Raul, you have traveled across the globe to 30 different countries. I mean, that's amazing credentials. You have worked with all kind of organizations. You have been into sales from like frontline to senior management, and you have traveled across Africa, Asia, Europe. That's such a huge credentials, beautiful credentials. So I'm going to start with one of the toughest question for you.
Okay.
You have been to India multiple times.
Yeah, but it was many years ago. I really don't remember much.
Well, then you would still remember what curry did you like in India?
I love it. The people, the people was so nice, and it was easy to make business because the atmosphere was the proper atmosphere for making any kind of business. Mm-hmm. The Indian people was so nice and has a very rich culture. I think that in that way, maybe we have some similarities with the Spanish culture as well. We have also an old culture as well. We share this kind of thing.
That's great. Raul, your book is out and it's Amazon's bestseller in Spain. Well, congratulations on that to begin with. And let me get started with asking you, what do you think about what's the future of selling is going to be?
Yeah, okay. Everybody now is worried about, if, for example, in the future, the salesman or the salespeople will disappear with the robots or with the artificial intelligence. Okay, but in my point of view, this kind of new technologies will not kill the salesman or will not kill the seller. I mean, it will not replace the duty of the seller. Mm-hmm. I mean, this kind of robots that is conquering all the market. in which they are mechanically collecting the information from all the possible buyers. They follow them up automatically to get the sale. I mean, they are programmed to learn how to satisfy the client's needs and to foresee and to provide them with all they require. But at the end, precisely because everything will be so automated, so impersonal, so unreal, the customer will ultimately demand a personal care. I mean, at the end, the people buy from people, and that is very, 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 very sure in the business-to-business field. Of course, there will be a percentage of automated sales. I mean, there will be an increasingly complex technology, but for the same reasons, there will be a place for the personal component, especially due to this growing disconnection between technology and humanity. At the end, the people will need other people and will require to speak with the human, because the human will be the only one which will be able to provide some additional value. Okay? In my opinion, there will be an explosion of new sales channels, and the professional salesman will have to master all these new channels, will have to adapt to all these new emerging technologies, and he will need to specialize, which is very important. He will need to specialize in the proper niche, in the proper market. So the salesman will sell more solutions than product, and the sales will become more consultative. You know that is the real thing today, that the sales are more consultative than just selling, because the clients in the B2B field and in the B2C, they advance much the sales process. When you are the first time you contract a potential customer, he's already got all the previous information through internet. He has gone through all the possible documentation, social webs and everything. So he has advanced a lot the buying process. So at that time, the seller need to add some kind of additional value, which is not included in this kind of previous information, you know. So at the end, there will be a balance between human and artificial intelligence. That is my own opinion, because I think that today companies, and in the future as well, they will not seek just to win customers, but what they want is to get their hearts. Right. You understand what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it means that cannot be done by a robot. A machine has no soul, no beliefs. So the technology will never have the spirit. So it means that there will be a balance between human and artificial intelligence. Just due to the human nature of sales. The sales is something social at the end.
Absolutely. I mean, that's people buy from people, and technology cannot replace that aspect. It's a very good takeaway from here. So things gonna get little automated, as Raul says, he predicts, and indeed the sale will move towards more consultative approach that salesman has to take, and he has to learn additional skills of new technologies that's been popping up every day or every now and then. He has to learn all this that will help him in lead generation, that will help him in connect with more customers out there or existing customers. He can take relationship to the next level. But at the end of the day, the people buy from people. Emotions cannot be replaced by artificial intelligence. After all, it's just going to serve you the information in a more better way, and it is up to the salesman how he make use of that information and how he turn around that engagement with the buyer and take it to the next level. It's fantastic.
Yeah. In fact, one of the characters of my first book is an spirit.
Absolutely.
So it means it's just other metaphor about this matter. I mean, it includes many kind of these ideas, but it's a metaphor. One of the characters is an spirit.
Indeed. So that's a good bit of insight that you have shared on that. In your book, Raul, you also talk about 15 main weaknesses of the seller and 7 strengths that you mentioned of the salesman or the seller, as we are calling it in this discussion, what do you think are the three main weaknesses and the most important strengths
Okay.
of a salesman?
Yeah, that's a nice question. But I in the book I listed 15, but I could have listed 100. We have many mistakes. All the salesmen and businessmen have many mistakes. Anyway, there is always someone's more repeated. Also, the book is not a Bible, and it doesn't pretend to be a Bible. And of course, in each market, and some mistakes can be more relevant to others. But for example, some very common mistakes is not to be a real expert in the product. Okay, because you must show that you are an expert in the product or service to get the confidence of the client. I have been working much in high technology products. So in this kind of high technology electronic products, you really need to be an expert. You really need to build a reputation. Independently of the product, you need to get the trust and confidence of the client, which at the end will result to give some kind of value, to provide value to the client. Right. So it means a mistake is not to be an expert in the product, and also to be an expert in the competition, in the market. So that if you are able to combine both the knowledge, deep knowledge of the product and the deep knowledge of the competitors and the market, you will be able to find out the benefits that you can offer to the customer and understand the needs that we can satisfy, which is very important at the end. And okay, another typical problem is not listening to the customer. This is very general. We all try to give a big speech, as I'm doing now. Okay, a big speech, but at the end you need to listen to the customer, and we must learn to listen, because the customer, what he wants is somebody to listen to them, to listen to their problems. Okay, so we must show our empathy, and if we don't listen, we don't find out what is their problem. We cannot provide any solution. So the way to follow is to go from the customer to the solution and not the other way around. Okay, so for that we need to listen much. That is very important. And the third big mistake probably is, okay, we said we must focus on the product, which is important, but also we must focus on the customer. There must be a balance between both. So the customer is the king, and we have given all the power. He doesn't want to let go this power. Okay, so today the customer is a super customer, and this makes a big difference, as we have mentioned it in the previously. So it's not a matter of forgetting the product, but a matter of asking yourself if you really want the product to solve the customer's problem. If the answer is yes, we must start from the client to the solution and not the other way. Okay, so focus on the customer is one of the main things. If you don't do that, it's a big mistake. Okay. Of course, we can speak about many different mistakes about the salesman and companies and sellers, but okay, we don't have much time, so I will try to resume. Regarding a very important strength, there are many ones which are really necessary today, but there is one which is very important, which is the creativity. We are in the era of innovation. We are every day you see that everything is changing very fast. So we need to adapt to these changes, and for this adaptation to the new changes and new technology, we need creativity. And the creativity is the key to finding new solutions to the new problems that the customers need. The needs of the customers do not change. The needs are always the same. They are universal needs, but change the way that we need to shift to satisfy those needs. Change the media and the messages we use to meet the client's expectations, which are demanding a different ways to satisfy the same universal needs. Okay, so both that the company and the salesman must innovate, must change, and take the risk. The typical sentence, Amit, is get out of the comfort zone.
Get out of the comfort zone, right?
Think out of the box. So selling today is also creating, having creativity. And today, the companies who does not apply the creativity, they will disappear.
Absolutely. That's
my point of view.
That's a pretty good insight. So yeah, as Raul mentioned, that the weaknesses, it all starts with communication. That's how you communicate is one thing. The delivering value, there should be value in every step you do. And in terms of strengths, it's the creativity that keeps you forward ahead of the competition. So whether you are an organization, a sales organization, you are a salesman, creativity is still the king. If you create yourself, innovate the messaging that you're passing on to the customer, you're keeping his your value intact, and you're listening to his challenges. Yeah, that was a very important point that keeps coming up. Listening. Raul pretty clearly mentioned that listening is very important. We don't listen to pass on the information we want to pass on. We listen to understand the customer challenges, his pain points, what he's trying to fix, and what exactly he wants his business to be or system to be, and then we recommend a solution. Solution was the one word that Raul used. I would like to highlight solution. It's pretty different from product. We don't talk about product as a salesman. We talk about solutions, solving problems. So those were pretty good insight that you have given us, Raul, and I'm sure there is a lot. You mentioned 15 main weaknesses are there and 7 strengths, so there is a lot that has been covered in the book. So let me just go ahead on to the next point and see what must a salesman or a businessman do to prevent that customer purchase just on the price. I mean, I'm trying to understand is typically when we get down onto the negotiation table, everything boils down to the price, and you don't want to erode your sale proposal value just because your competition is offering less price. So when we are into these kind of situations, what is that the tip or the strategy that you would give to the audience?
Okay, yes. When you reach to the point that the only thing on the table is price, it means you first you have to look yourself in the mirror. The company and the salesman first they must look to them in their mirror, because it means if your customer is just considering the price, that means that you have not worked your value proposal. I mean, you have not worked in advance your value proposal. You just reach it to a point which is price is the only discussion. I mean, the price should not be the only reason, because it's not the only element on the equation, unless we do not make any value proposal. I mean, in the value proposal, we must explain to the client why he should buy from us and not to the competition. And that must include, of course, the full set of benefits, advantages of the product that solve their problem and meet their needs, and your differential value. Because differentiation is very important, as you say. You must look for what differentiates you from the competition. And you must highlight this kind of intangibles, that kind of ideas that differentiate your brand and your quality to any other competition. So another part which is important to work about is not only adding value, but also reduce cost. But I'm not speaking about material cost, not the price. There are also other psychological costs for the customer. Sometimes this psychological cost is, for example, the opposition to change brand, because they are used to one kind of brand. So because they need some kind of trust for this changing. I mean, there is some kind of insecurities that you must work to fight against this kind of insecurity. About the psychological cost to change. Also, another cost is the time and effort of the customer to use your product or service. So sometimes you need to rethink your product and think how you can reduce this kind of effort or this kind of energy or time that the customer needs to spend to make the purchase and after to use the product. You understand? So sometimes it's not only about price, but also about adding additional values and reducing different kind of cost. Sometimes, for example, a typical cost can be the time to make a purchase. If the time is too long, maybe they will change your option and go to the competition. So sometimes it's good that you reduce your purchase process, or trying to make it easier to the customer to check to buy to you and not to buy to your competition. So sometimes you need to look yourself at the mirror, understand how to improve your sales process.
Absolutely.
Because the product is not expensive by itself. I mean, the product is expensive compared to what? Compared to other things. So it's not okay. This is very expensive, but expensive compared to what? So you must understand what is the scale of the client values. What is their perceived value, which is abstract, is subjective. It's not something absolute. So you have to work out this kind of additional values that are in the mind of the customer. For example, I would like to finish this idea with a sentence that I use in the book, and somehow it summarizes this. I use a sentence which says, "The value of the tiger is in his eyes." So maybe you can get the idea.
Absolutely.
So the value of the tiger is in his eyes means that the value is given by the customer, in the mind of the customer.
It's in the mind of the customer. Indeed.
So, and that is what you have to work about. But anyway, the reader will be able to understand this sentence when they reach at the end of the book.
Absolutely. So it's a must read, guys, and the takeaways, the key takeaways from this particular section here is, if it all boils down to price, then you have not worked out your sale proposal properly. You're not able to showcase the value to the customer. You're not able to make that psychological appeal. So the perceived value of the proposal, it's not what you think is the value, it's what customer thinks the value. And there are some points that needs to be worked out that are beyond the cost or beyond the price of the beyond the price value. It can be the time that is invested, it can be any other thing. So you need to be thorough with each and every aspect and what value it holds in your sales proposal. Whether you need to segregate whether it has a value to the customer, it doesn't have a value to the customer, and whatever has a value to the customer, you focus on that. You try to make it more valuable. You try to highlight that. That's also important. What Raul mentioned, that communication should happen, that customers should understand. Otherwise, he would not be able to clearly differentiate between what value your product or your solution is offering and what value competitor is offering. And when he compares it with the competition, you should also be thorough with the competition. That's one add-on here, that if your competition is just selling on the price base, then you should highlight what customer is going to miss if he goes with him, if he goes with your competition. And if you could, that is your job. It's not customer's job to figure all that out. You should not be putting that burden on customer to figure out things. You should be doing that job by yourself, figuring out your competition, and then clearly highlighting your key differentiator, your unique value proposition, so that it becomes easy for a customer to make a decision, and he can make a decision towards your side. So that's pretty amazing information from Raul. Thank you so much for that. I'm just gonna quickly jump onto the final, the last question here, Raul. In your book, you have also highlighted some of the buying motivation of a buyer, a purchase motivation. But let's, if you can tell our audience what is so important about the buying motivation? Why is it
Yeah,
important for
the
a
purchase
seller to
motivation
figure it
of
out?
customers. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I will go on. As we mentioned before, the main important thing, is the needs of the customer, because the need is what drives human beings to take action and make choices. Okay. So in terms of consumer behavior, the motivation is the search for that satisfaction of that need. So the need is there, but the motivation is the way to reach to that satisfaction of the need. Okay.
Mhm.
So the needs are universal; they are not created, but they need to be stimulated, motivated, and the motivations are already personal, and that's subjective. And the motivations are the ones subject to manipulation to move in one direction. And to motivate is to activate, to excite the behavior, and to move the people and the customer to an end. And the end is the satisfaction of their need. So that is very important for the seller to understand and influence these customer motivations. Okay, in all this effort to explain the customer behavior, we can mention some main motivations of customers. The list can be big, but we can mention some main ones. For example, the typical one is interest, which can be similar to economic or profit. Another one is fashion, which is novelty of innovations. The convenience motivation, which is something is easy, or it is with something find some speed on it, some convenience. Other one is affection, which is sympathy, fidelity, love. The other main one is security, which is translated into trust. Another very important one is also pride, which today is very important in the social status and self-esteem. Okay, there are also other possible motivations, but these ones are very important: passion, interest, convenience, affection, security, and pride. All these have common elements, and at the end, a mix of these motivations are the ones that trigger the customer action. And so that we must never forget these motivations when the seller needs to provoke that motivated behavior. That's the motivations he needs to stimulate and to move to the direction of your product. So you must drive these motivations to get the desire of your product. And the desire of the specific brand product with a name, it is just motivation with its own name. Okay, so the customer has a general motivation, but you must address it to the specific product desire. And then if you are able to get that this desire becomes passion, it is an extreme loyalty for the brand or product, then it is not necessary to keep motivating the customer. They motivate themselves. They are fans. And that is our goal, to become the customers in fans. When you are able to change desire to passion. That is the idea of the way to move the motivations of the customers.
Right. So emotional appeal should be there, and it can be the social status, it can be the price, it can be the time investments, it can be anything, but you need to figure out and you need to make an emotional appeal. So that's a pretty good point. Uh, I'm sure you would have described that thoroughly in your book, Raul. So we all look forward to that. So moving on, you also highlight things about customer loyalty. So what are the key how organizations, or even in terms of salesman, how he can invoke that customer loyalty?
Okay, in the book I explain it with a simple formula, but at the end, to optimize the customer satisfaction goes through increasing the perceived value. We have been speaking about before, to add this kind of benefits and added values, the differential advantage, if possible, emotional values. You must decrease costs and barriers, insecurities and discomforts, and of course the result must be bigger than the expectations. So you have also to manage very well the expectations, which has to be consistent with our offer. I mean, a client may be satisfied, but that is not guaranteeing that the client remains loyal to the company. He can be satisfied, but it will not prevent that they buy from the competition as well. So, since the loyalty is the ultimate goal, well, we have to get this loyalty as a matter of emotions, as a matter of compromise. Okay? So you must create a psychological connection with enough motivation to produce the purchase repetition. So, loyalty is a matter of emotions, but the loyalty client must be also rewarded. I mean, he wants to be treated in a special way, as you know, like we can as an example for like love and plants. You have to cultivate it and water it frequently every day. You understand? Like
Indeed.
love and plants. So
it's going to die otherwise, yeah.
So there are many traditional techniques to strengthen the loyalty with the client, to make things feel unique. At the end, everything all is about exceeding the expectations. Okay, and one of the ultimate and supreme need is happiness. I mean, there are concepts that never change. I mean, the technology changed, everything changed, but there are concepts that never change, are eternal concepts, and one of those is the supreme need of happiness. Okay.
Indeed.
So at the end, yeah, to make
I have a question here.
Happy. You understand what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I have a question here. If you could enlighten us, like some small tips and tricks a seller or a salesman can use to invoke that customer loyalty for his accounts at his own level. What would that be? A couple of tips.
I didn't hear well. Sorry.
So as a seller, if I would like to have my accounts loyal and with me, and what would be some of the tips that you would like to recommend to salesmen so that they can have loyal customers, loyal accounts?
Okay, there are many tips, but as I'm saying here, you need to get the commitment. For getting the commitment, you really need to add an additional emotion, an additional value. If you are just giving the same as others, the customer will. I mean, he's not forced to go through your auction. I mean, he needs something which is really that he really remembers. For example, let's imagine a typical B2B process. Then in the process, you have first you say the potential customer is a prospect, okay, and later you call it client.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened with the prospect? I mean, the prospect maybe you speak with them, but you say, okay, this prospect has now no any budget, or has no any need, or it's not the time for purchasing my product, and then you leave the prospect, forgetting this prospect in your CRM. You know what I mean? And you are not providing him any value.
Absolutely. So the typical standard process that organizations follow.
You qualify the prospect that, okay, this is not my customer. But what happens is that most of the times you contact these prospects, they are not ready to buy. Maybe they are ready to buy in the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. And the B2B sales are usually long. Okay? So what you must always add is a personal care to this prospect. Not treated just as a prospect, not qualified. Okay, he has no budget now, but treat it well. In the future, when he has budget or when he has a real need, he will remember that you were giving him some value. For example, you were advising some papers to educate the client into your solution or into the general problems of the industry he's involved with. I mean, the point is to educate the clients, to go from prospect to real client, to educate them. So
exactly.
Because most of the time the prospects are really lost. You know what I mean? Lost in the CRM. and you don't care about them. So you need a personal touch with each one. So do not forget never the humanity and the personal care to convert the prospect into a customer. You need to always treat them in a special way.
Exactly. So that's how you can invoke loyalty. You can have customers and prospects keep coming back to you if you could add that personal touch and that humanly feeling and let them know that you care. And that's how
Yeah.
you can always get them back. Well, thank you, Raul. Thank you very much for sharing your views and insights on how the current situation is and how the future of selling is going to be. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a must recommended book for sales professionals, Sell More and Better. It is available on Amazon in English as well as in Spanish, right, Raul? It's
Yes,
available
it
in
is.
English. I did
Available in
check it and
Amazon. Yeah,
yep,
available in Amazon.com, Amazon India, and also in other online platforms, as for example, Google Playbooks or iTunes Store, Kobo, and many other online platforms. They can search for the title in internet, and they will find many different online platforms.
perfect. We look forward to reading it. I'm gonna do that first thing right after this podcast.
Yeah,
So
okay.
great.
Thank you very much, Amit.
Thank you, Raul, for giving us this pleasure of having you on the show. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, the book name is Sell More and Better: Eternal Techniques Beyond Internet. Well, the title itself is pretty catchy. Do go ahead and read it out and let us know. You can always reach out to Raul. He is there as an author in Amazon. You can contact him over there. And thank you very much for being with us, Raul, today. And thank you, audience, for your time. Have a great day ahead, everyone. And don't forget, if you're looking for advanced sales strategies to lift your sales career right to the next level, Sales Decoded podcast is the place for you. Thank you so much,
Okay, thank you very
everyone.
much, Amit, and very kind regards from Spain to the beautiful India.